Hello and welcome to another episode of The Voice of Kali. My name is Ekta and I'm the author of the book The Voice of Kali. Now, in this episode, I want to talk about a situation which I'm approached by many people. A very common question asked by everyone is that how do we deal with the situation in our life which is toxic? And in that toxic situation, how do we find the strength to spiritually elevate? Very, very valid point. When there is something going on in your life, when there is someone being very negative to you, very toxic to you, then it's not very easy to come to a spiritual understanding. What do we do then when we are going through the darkest time in our life? I have seen that, and this is my own experience, that when the time comes in your life, when something is not working right, or when someone is being extremely negative, that time is the right time when your spiritual journey has to start. It's almost like that universe is telling you that your time starts now. And though we may be thinking that I am going through my worst at this time, on the human level, yes, it looks worse, but on a spiritual level, this is our time to awaken. We all know that we have the choices in our life. We have a choice. Either in that time when things are going completely out of control, we can go into our manas buddhi, which is like our experience as a human being, and succumb to the darkness. Sometimes that is when people get into depression, self-pity, and all other emotions that would naturally come to us if we stay in that human state of mind. And we also have a choice to go into self-awareness, to understand really that who is suffering. I know it's not easy. It's not easy when you're surrounded by darkness and you're surrounded by negativity, you're surrounded by toxic people, that to focus on yourself and ask who is suffering. Of course you're suffering, but that is the wiser thing to do. And that is what you should be praying for at that minute for yourself, that the wiser part of you, the empowered mindset in you, the Kali mindset in you should awaken at that time, so that you choose the path of self-awareness instead of self-pity. Let's say that you have someone in your life who is constantly angry with you, constantly talking in a very nasty way, giving you a very hard time. The situation at home is very toxic. What do you do then? The first and foremost thing I want to remind you is that whatever noise is happening around you, that is not in your control. But what is in your control is what you choose to hear. Of course, there are some sounds that are just coming. I can hear the birds singing now. I can hear some cars passing by. They are not in my control. But what I focus on is what I hear more. If I focus on the sounds of nature, I somehow will not be able to hear the sound of traffic. If I focus on sound of the traffic, the sound of the nature around me, it dims down. So we can't just eliminate any sound around us, but we can choose what we focus on. So focus on that sound which is good for you. And when you start doing that, the other sound constantly and gradually they dim down. Now, what is that sound that is good for you? One, that could be the sound of someone's probably some YouTube video, some video like this that you hear, which gives you some guidance. Start listening to experiences of other people. Start listening to what people have done to come out of it, not about what are people going through. Because if you focus more on that sadness, you're increasing the self-pity. So start thinking of ways that people have used to come out, spiritual ways. Start gaining your spiritual understanding by listening more and more to such beautiful, insightful videos that we have in YouTube. It's full of knowledge, and there is so many experiences that people have shared. Start listening to that. That is one sound you must focus on. The second is the sound of your own voice. What is it telling you? Start listening more to it. And you will find that your inner voice is asking you to become more aware of your strengths than your weaknesses. Because we are conditioned to always focus on our weaknesses more and kind of think of it as a shortcoming. We are conditioned to focus on our shortcomings. We stop focusing on the strength. So your inner voice is guiding you to look at your strength, and that could be even as small as you have the strength to just have more patience to go through this, or you have the strength to make that change in your life. Start focusing on that voice more. Third, start reading more books. Books talk to us. Books give us an insight, and they liberate us. They have the power to liberate us from our very caged mindset, or sometimes when we are stuck, they just come as cold balms on our wound. The knowledge that they give, and those, the kind of books that you choose at that time, first pray to your angels that they should guide you, that whatever knowledge or book is right for you should come to you. And it does happen. I was going through something very deep at that one point in my life. There was some deep misunderstanding that had happened between me and my very good friend, but I had no understanding of how to handle this situation, and it was very toxic, बहुत toxic situation थी. And at that point I asked angels. I believe in angels. I believe that we are surrounded by light and light people, light workers, and I believe that we have access to their help whenever we need it. So I asked my angels that I don't know what should I read now, because sometimes you don't want to read very deep stuff when you are going through some random thoughts. You just want something to just make sense. And at that point, there's this book, Angels in My Hair, and which I had purchased years back, but I never read it. It was somehow in my bookshelf. And believe it or not, that book literally just fell in my hands. From out of nowhere, I'm just standing there thinking what to read, what should I read that should make more sense to me, give me some peace of mind. And that book literally fell on my hands, and I started reading it. And at that moment, that was the right book for me, because it gave me hope. It gave me understanding. It gave me that reminder that I have angels around me who are there to help me, even though I was seeking their help. But maybe I needed more faith. Maybe I needed to seek it with more conviction. And there was another time in my life when I had just come back from Kolkata, the Dakshineshwar temple, and a certain silence came within me. My soul has been waiting to go to Dakshineshwar temple since I don't know how many years, or I don't know, maybe births. And when I went there, and what I experienced, the energy that I experienced, it kind of made me very silent inside. I didn't want to share anything. I didn't want to talk about anything. I didn't want to think anything. In fact, I couldn't even write. I opened the laptop and I just could not write, which was a little uncomfortable for me, because I usually write every day. That's the first thing that I do when I write, or sometimes when I'm just sitting, I think of Ma Kali and I start writing whatever words are coming. So that completely stopped, and with that came a lot of uneasiness of what is going on. That happened for a couple of months. That silence, and it wasn't a silence of sadness, it was a silence of peace. So I was feeling a lot of peace within me, as if there are no questions anymore, as if there is nothing to know anymore. So there was no urge to read books, there was no urge to listen to anyone, there was no urge to write anything, because I'd almost come to a point where I felt that I've seen Ma Kali there. There is nothing more to do. But at that point, after months of going through this, and this probably happened with me for about a good 6 months. I think after months of going through this, I one day sought help, and while I was lighting my diya, and I asked Ma, send me help. Tell me, what do I read? Tell me about someone who experienced something similar like this, and what did that person do? And at that point, again, while browsing through my bookstore, I saw Autobiography of a Yogi, and I picked that book. And again, that book has been with me since years, but probably I was not ready to understand the wisdom behind it. So I may have read it, but not appreciated it the way I should have. Or maybe just read a couple of pages, and my spiritual journey had to go through many other things to be able to understand the words written in that book. And in that book, I read a particular section where Swami Yogananda, he talks about an incident where he felt something similar, and that gave me so much strength at that moment. So no matter what is going on around you, knowledge, experiences, words, they have a lot of power to bring you out. Initially, when you're not able to give yourself positive words, start seeking those words outside, not from your friends. You don't want sympathy, you want wisdom. So start looking for, like I said, some videos, books, and gradually focus on your inner voice. And the more you do these things, and don't forget prayers. Prayers are so powerful. At whatever point of your life you're going through, however bad the situation is, however bad it may seem, never stop praying. And I don't mean that to do any rituals or stuff like that. I simply just talk to Kali as I'm talking to you. And I say simple, small things, that today I want to write certain number of words. So can you make things, the situations around me conducive to write? And literally, something happens that I am just alone with my laptop for a couple of hours with that focus. And I even asked her for, giving me the grace of concentration, because it's so easily to be distracted. And I get that. So prayers are very important. Just have that understanding that whatever is happening around you in your relationships, whatever toxicity is happening around you, for that particular time when things are not going right, as humans, what we do is we focus so much on that relationship to make everything right. What we should be doing is we should be focusing so much on our relationship with the universal God at that time, and with ourselves. We should be working on ourselves, and the more we work on ourselves, the more we strengthen our faith, the more we strengthen our bond with the universal energies, the more situation dilutes around us. But this is an understanding that comes after a lot of experience, and many people don't do that. They try to stay in that situation, in that toxic relationship, and try to improve that toxic relationship with a very low frequency within them, without really getting a full understanding of what is going on within them, what is it that they really want. And that kind of creates a cycle. That situation may become all right for a certain amount of time, but it will come back again, and that pattern never really goes. So the way to break that pattern of toxic situation around you is to start building your relationship with the universal energies, with your God or Aradhya, or whoever you have faith in. Whatever, it could be a form, it could be energy, it could be anything, but something more supreme than yourself, something more powerful than your own spiritual energy. Start building that relationship, start working more on that relationship, start working more on your inner wisdom, your inner awareness, on yourself. And the more you do that, the more that your vibration increases somehow, and those qualities of patience, of tolerance, of understanding, of the clarity of what you want in life, that comes. And the more clarity comes in your life, the more you are able to understand the situation around you and deal with it with a very wise mindset. So how to deal with toxic situations around you? Start focusing on yourself. Start working on that relationship with the universal energies, and for a moment stop focusing on that toxic bond. Stop feeding energy to it, because the more you feed your energy has to be positive. If you're feeding negative energy to it, you are increasing the negativity of the whole situation. So there is no point in doing that, because at the end of the day you'll be drained out and the situation would not have changed. So the voice of Kali says that whenever situations in your life go toxic, whenever people around you are not behaving or not talking to you in a very nice way, whenever toxic situations come in your life, the voice of Kali says that at that time, focus on your inner awareness. Focus on your wisdom and focus on your relationship with the universal energies. Focus on strengthening your inner light, and the situation around you will dissolve, with teaching you, alongside teaching you the lesson it was meant to teach you. We forget that all these situations around us come in our life because they have a lesson for us. And sometimes we don't focus on the lesson, we just focus on the situation. And that's why the situation comes again and again and again. So to break that pattern, one, focus on your relationship with the universal God and let that lesson come, whatever is meant for you. Let it come. Open your doors for it. Just remove yourself from the situation so that the lesson can flow easily to you. And once you have embraced that lesson, that situation will just dissolve, or it will find a conclusion in the way it is supposed to find a conclusion. And it may take days, it may take months, it may take years, because it really depends on how much work you are doing it yourself. So next time you have this negative situation coming in your life, or you are faced with toxic people, think of that as a moment for your spiritual growth. And maybe that will be a way for you to break that pattern of toxicity in your life.